last two teams of the lottery, the 9 seeds. As the 9th seed in the East, I have the Detroit Pistons. Last season was a strange one for them. They had a really bad start where they began the season at 5-23. Then they got rid of Josh Smith and went on a roll and made a push for the playoffs. Now, unfortunately, Brandon Jennings went down with the Achilles tear, so that pretty much squashed their chance. They ended up with a final record of 32-50. So since getting rid of Josh Smith, they went exactly 500. The Detroit Pistons have won 3 championships, from the back-to-back titles of the Bad Boys to the last title they won in 2004, when they beat the star-studded Lakers team in 5 games. On that team were players like Chauncey Billups, Rasheed Wallace, Ben Wallace, Rip Hamilton, and many more. Let's see the moves the Pistons made this summer. They drafted Stanley Johnson at 8 and Darren Hillard at 38. Other players they got were Reggie Bullock, Steve Blake, Danny Granger, Marcus Morris, Aaron Baines, and Ersan Ilyasova. Players they lost were Greg Monroe, Tayshaun Prince, Caron Butler, and Sean Williams. The thing that probably stands out here is that Greg Monroe left the team, making the playing style of the Pistons more of a 1 in and 4 out. Let's see how the rotation might possibly look like. The man in the middle, Andre Drummond, great athlete and a beast of a rebounder. I think he will have a breakout season this year. He averaged 14 points and 13.5 rebounds last season. I think he's fully capable of averaging 19 points and 15 to 16 rebounds this year. Not sure if he'll be the most improved player of the season, but he could be knocking at the door. You can see that Stan Van Gundy, the coach and GM of the team, is creating a team that's very similar to his Magic teams, with Drummond sort of in a Dwight Howard role. But Andre is not as good as Dwight when he was in his Orlando days. But I think he has great potential. He's bigger than Dwight, he's a legit 7-footer, and at 280 pounds, simply too much for many guys to handle. One thing that just hurts my brain about him is that he shoots only 39% from the free throw line. He needs to knock down more of his free throws. Then at power forward, playing stretch 4 will be Ersan Ilyasova. The two of them are going to be backed up by Aaron Baines and Anthony Tolliver, who's another stretch 4. So compared to last year, the Pistons are going to see a lot more freedom to operate inside the 3-point line. Then there's Marcus Morris. Not as good as his twin brother, but he's good and can shoot threes. Then behind him, at least to start off with, they have the rookie Stanley Johnson. 6'7", 245 pounds, so he really has an NBA ready body and could see time at the 2 all the way to the 4 because of his body type. Say if they play the Cavs or the Warriors. He has great potential and is a Rookie of the Year candidate. Could be a Jimmy Butler type of player at some point of his career. At the 2 there's Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. I expect him to continue to improve. He's backed up by Jody Meeks. Then there's the point guard spot. Reggie Jackson. He will start off at the point. He was terrific after the All-Star break for the Pistons. Had 17 points and 9 assists per game. The Pistons have said there's no timetable on Brandon Jennings, but he has said he's okay coming off the bench. It will be interesting to see if he and Reggie Jackson can play on the court together, and if Brandon can return to his old self, because he was playing really well until he tore his Achilles. Overall, the Pistons are opening things up. Shooters at every position around Drummond. Will be a lot of screen and roll actions between Drummond and Jackson or Jennings. That will be very hard for teams to stop. Then you can also see the team has gotten a little bit longer, so it will be in their advantage on defense. Some might look at Monroe as a big loss, and in some ways he is a big loss because he's a good player. When Stan Van Gundy was asked if he regretted not maxing Monroe, he said he was back and forth about it. But in the end, the league is going a lot more small, and that it would not make a lot of sense paying 2 players in Monroe and Drummond max money when they really play the same position. Monroe also prefers to play with his back to the basket, which makes it difficult for Drummond, because he's not a threat outside of 5 feet. I can agree with that. I mean, Monroe was sometimes forced to play stretch 4s, and he's much more of a center than a perimeter player. To finish things off, the Pistons will at least be 500, but as I've said before, I feel like the East has improved. I think they will be fighting around the 7 to 10 range. Excellent chance at the playoffs. Things are moving in the right direction for this young team. Pistons fans should feel optimistic about the future. On to the next team. In the 9th seed in the West, I have the Sacramento Kings. They started off the season well, but for some reason they decided to fire their coach and things got bad after that. they finished with a final record of 29 wins and 53 losses. Their best results came 64 years ago, in 1951, when they won the NBA title as the Cincinnati Royals. But the best results we can remember the Kings having was in 2002 when they lost in the Western Conference Finals to the Lakers in 7 games. A great but controversial series to say the least. Let's see what the Kings did this summer. They drafted Willie Cauley-Stein at number 6. Other players they got were Rajon Rondo, Caron Butler, Marco Bellinelli, Costa Koufos, Seth Curry, and Quincy Acy. Players that left were Nick Stauskas, Jason Thompson, Carl Landry, Ray McCallum, Andre Miller, and Derek Williams. What stands out is probably that Rondo is in town. No one really wanted him, so the Kings' new owner and management welcomed him. Let's see how the rotation might possibly look like. In the middle I can see Costa Koufos starting, a solid center that has mainly been a backup in his league, but he's a starting caliber center. Behind him will be the rookie center Willie Cauley-Stein, who could move into the starting lineup as the season moves on. I really like Cauley-Stein's game. Great athlete and a great defender. He'll be great as a defender in the pick-and-roll dominant league today. Then with a move to power forward, there's DeMarcus Cousins. Had a huge year last year, with 24 points and 12.5 rebounds. We'll see how he plays now that he's the power forward and not the center. Then at small forward is Rudy Gay, while being backed up by Omri Caspi and tough juice Caron Butler. Then in the backcourt is Ben McLemore, with Marco Bellinelli backing him up. I like the move of Bellinelli. Better player than Nick Stauskas and a much better shooter. Then Steph Curry's younger brother, Seth Curry, who signed with the Kings. At point guard for the Kings is Rajon Rondo, who was last season in Dallas, and you could tell he never really wanted to be there. It's gonna be interesting to see him with Cousins. Many people think they're gonna clash, and that the team is the most likely team in the NBA to have a team turmoil. I guess that's understandable, but I think Rondo is a better fit than Isaiah Thomas. Rondo is a pass-first point guard, compared to Thomas who's a score-first. So Cousins will definitely get the ball. Rondo hasn't really been the same player since he tore his ACL. Don't know if it's simply because he's no longer with KG, Pierce and those guys, or that he's simply not the same player. He's then backed up by the small, but fast Darren Collison. This is the best Kings roster they've had in a while, a lot deeper with more experience. Along with George Karl and a full training camp with him, you can expect an improved team. Granted, if clashes inside the team are held to a minimum. But Karl has coached some hard-headed individuals before, and everywhere he's gone, the teams have improved and pretty much been playoff bound. To finish things off is a very interesting situation. They could be battling for a playoff spot, or be in the same position as the last few years. If that happens, you can expect the Cousins trade talks to start to heat up. They could end up all the way from the 12th seed to the 7th seed. This team is very unpredictable. It will depend if cool heads prevail. That's it for now. Like, subscribe, and peace.